traditional owners of the land, and this is where humanity should always be acknowledging everyone, particularly when you are in Australia. Acknowledging the traditional owners is critical because we are here because of them. My name is Dr. Berhan Ahmed, and I am the CEO of Africos, projecting African into Australian culture. That the identity of African is critical. I have been awarded Victorian Australian of the Year, particularly with my emphasis. I'm an adjunct professor at Melbourne University, but I would like to see that future generation be proud of who they are. So it cannot happen overnight. It needs work of all collectiveness. And this is why I'm in Footscray, because this is the center or melting point of Africans in collected cultures and norms of our business, daily life and community interaction.
The manager of YSK Fashion, Melbourne. This YSK Fashion started in 2016 in Melbourne. So we do a lot of all African traditional dresses. For example, like Somalian, Ghanaian, West African, Eritrean, Ethiopian, all kind of traditional in different modern style. We do custom in Melbourne, and we have another branch in Ethiopia as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with you, Dr. Berhan, as someone that is older, dare I say?
Yes, the wisdom.
Old.
No, the wisdom.
Talk to me about your experiences with defining identity after working with this community.
Let me put it this way. Coming to this country was very challenging. I never knew that I was a black man. I knew when I landed here, because every time I saw myself was treated like a continent of a black rather than a person of who I am. And that's the time I start searching, where do I go, who I am? And that's the questions that every young person is asking now. And it is a valid question, because when you are living in such, they call multicultural but monocultural domination, always makes you to say, where do I belong, who I am? So all these questions were making myself, and that's why since the day one I came to this country, I participated in an African issue, because I need to create, as in the African identity in general. But in particular, we all come from a different, even within cultures, within one country we have got diverse cultures. Now, that became a secondary to the first question, because the time I came, there were minorities of Africans. So at the time, because of our color of skin, we've been identified as just Africans. Okay? Within ourselves, we know who is who and who belongs to where. But the question, we are all living with a diverse and always been referred to the continent rather than to our specific identity. So that created an identity of an Africanness. An Africanness was more than just an identity of one person, but an identity of every black person, even if not from Africa, is considered an African. So that gave us something to unite, which was great. But the more the community, we start lobbying government, because if this identity is to flourish, we cannot flourish it with few numbers. We need more numbers. So we argued with ministers, with whatever, because we had one goal. We are all blacks, so that black refer us as one identity.
That's what I'm working for as well, like to keep the identity. Like, for example, what I'm wearing right now is my identity, like as African. So I'm wearing it, like, so if anyone see me with this kind of dresses, they say like he's African. So that's how I find it, like with different designing as well, like it's showing like the identity.
Would you rather someone call you an African man or an Eritrean man?
In generally, like most of the time, like someone doesn't know you, like when they call you, like African. That's how they call it, like an African. But in generally, like when you go to deep, like there is a lot of identity as well.
And in terms of culture, why do you think culture is important, especially in a country like Australia?
Well, look, to be honest with you, culture is important because culture is like a program shaping our thinking. It is not just about the food and dress. That shapes our growth of our brain. Like culture has language, like the Tigrinya language, Amharic language, Arabic. So this is part of that culture shaping or programming your brain on how to think. This is richness of a society. We need to encourage that because instead of us having the same computer software program in our head, we have different software programs in our head due to the cultures. This strains society because the way I think should not be the same as everyone that thinks. Lack of confidence, people feel like it's a threat of diversity. But diversity or cultures are the best product of a society that creates creativeness because of our ability to think different, because of even though we see the same thing, but we think different ways. And that's the important for creativeness, for innovation. You know, the most common enemies of every human is ignorance, disease, and hunger. Healthy society, educated society is a wealth. They can see the benefits of each other. Africa has, more to come than what's gone. So the question is, how do we create intellectual capacity? How do we take the fear of everyone in feeling confident of who they are? The problem we're having currently is, even within my own Eritrean or whatever, people don't have confidence in each other. And that fear by itself is the barrier. So Africa, to progress, one thing that we need to do, we need to take that fear out. In our society, because a communal life we live, that communal life creates dependency. And that dependency sometimes creates lack of confidence. Has benefits, there is no question. Has benefits, there is no question. But when you see it on an individual scale, the individual part destroys. Because that person always feels is dependent on X rather than dependent on themselves. Everyone needs to feel that I can do. Okay? And that's the Western motto. If that go to an individual African, I can tell you the continent can be the strongest continent in the world, not in Africans, but in the world. And that is, we're taking that fear out, build self-confidence, self-esteem. The engine is nearly modified and running like a superjet. The problem is not underground. The problem is above ground, and that's us. So if we wake up one day and start to respect each other, to feel who we are, we will change the world.
It's your voice, so I can know.